Hi everyone, I'm Eyewitness News Chief Meteorologist Josh Hodell. There are few things that are certain in life.
And weather being a topic of conversation for many of us is one of them.
Today, winter weather is a topic of our conversation.
Whether you love winter or dislike it, the fact is, winter will be here soon.
Today we have a lot to share with you, from the meteorological side to French toast in your winter weather handbook.
Eyewitness Weather presents a special report on staying safe and braving the cold in northeastern and central Pennsylvania. This is your Winter Weather Handbook, featuring Josh Hodell and the Eyewitness Weather team.
Are you ready for winter? Before we look to the future and open a new chapter in the Winter Weather Handbook and this year's winter forecast, let's take a look back at some of the more memorable storms across central and northeastern Pennsylvania. March 14th, 2017 set the all-time record snowfall at the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton International Airport. 22.1 inches of snow was measured. This would be one of 4 nor'easters in March of that year. Parts of the Poconos picked up 3 feet of snow. Motorists had to spend the night on the interstates because the plows couldn't keep up. January 2018. Persistent cold weather led to massive chunks of ice on the Susquehanna River. Some called it a once-in-a-lifetime view to see these 20-foot high pieces. Not only did these ice chunks and jams cause flooding, but also damage to the banks of the river and bridges. Valentine's Day, 2007. This winter storm brought a mix of everything: snow, sleet, and freezing rain. Relatively speaking, this storm didn't give us that much snow, but the icy mix stranded people in their cars on Interstates 81 and 380. Governor Ed Rendell declared a disaster emergency for the entire state after this winter storm. Snow was not the problem in the Poconos in 2005. Ice was. From January 5th to January 8th, 2 winter storms put down almost an inch of ice across the Poconos. Tens of thousands of people lost power. More than 10,000 trees were damaged. In fact, you may still be able to see those damaged trees today. Last, but certainly not least, the 1993 storm of the century in March. This massive winter storm impacted places from Central America to the eastern United States and north in eastern Canada. Prior to 2017, this storm gave us the all-time daily snow record with a total of 18.7 inches. Wind gusted 40 to 55 miles per hour, which classified it as a blizzard. We've come a long way since 1993, but we've also made significant advances in the technology. Forecasting snowstorms and winter weather can be tricky. At Eyewitness News, we have the technology to help with forecasting big winter storms and keeping you prepared. Our advanced technology is really going to help you this winter. For example, we have the ability to analyze road conditions. Some roads will be wet, some roads icy and slushy, and some roads will be snow covered. We also have the ability to analyze pavement temperatures. When they're above freezing, roads are generally wet and we're in good shape. But you know it, I know it, a little drop in those temperatures below freezing, like in the upper 20s, and those wet roads can easily and quickly become icy, slushy, and snow-covered roads. Speaking of snow, our radar can help us to forecast how much snow is going to fall. For example, there may be parts of northern Pennsylvania that pick up an inch of snow in the next hour, but there may be parts of central Pennsylvania that pick up 3 inches of snow. We can also break this down by region. For example, this is lake effect snow across parts of New York State and northern Pennsylvania, and we can even take it down by county level and neighborhood level. The heaviest snow in this case is going to be across parts of Susquehanna and northern Wayne counties. But when you go a little bit farther south, say into Pike and Lackawanna counties, the snow may just not happen at all. And of course, the best way to get winter weather alerts is with our Eyewitness Weather app. Up next, La Niña is looming. Stefano will explain what's going on in the Pacific Ocean this year and how will it impact us. Love it or loathe it? We always hear your opinions about winter, and here's what you're saying tonight.
I'm a winter hater.
Why is that?
I don't like snow. I don't like shoveling. I'd rather go cut the grass any day. I don't like snow. I don't like the cold. Getting older, I don't like. Give me summer anytime.
You're watching a special Eyewitness Weather presentation, your Winter Weather Handbook.
With winter just months away, we'll be working on our winter forecast for this season. There's a lot that can affect what kind of winter we'll see, and Stefano is here to explain one phenomenon we'll closely be watching this winter.
A lot of factors we'll be taking into account when preparing this year's winter forecast. Looks like one of the big factors for us this year is something called a La Nina. But what exactly is a La Nina? Well, translated from Spanish, it's translated as little girl. It means cooler than average sea surface temperatures that are along and in the central and eastern Pacific Ocean. La Nina is actually already happening right now, and that process is expected to continue right through the winter months, and that's going to have impacts here on our winter. But how exactly is a La Nina form? Well, we have these easterly trade winds, and when they're pretty strong, moving from east to west across the Pacific, they take that warmer surface water, move it toward Asia. What that allows is that colder water below the surface to begin to upwell, and when it does that, now we have colder surface temperatures in the eastern and central Pacific Ocean. And believe it or not, a simple change just like that has impacts on our winter, not just here in northeastern and central Pennsylvania, but around the entire country. So there is that colder water. We get an area of high pressure developing just south of Canada. Strong blocking high is what we call that. It'll lift the jet stream north, but in the continental U.S., that jet stream takes a nice dip to the south. And that's going to have big impacts all across the country. In the north, it would mean a colder than average winter. But in the southern U.S., and this also includes our area as well, it would translate to a warmer than average winter and also a wetter than average winter, because as storm systems develop in the northwest, they ride right along that jet stream and move right into our area. So La Nina is going to be a big player over the next couple of months, and definitely something we'll be keeping a close eye out for in our winter forecast.
All right, Stefano, thank you. Winter weather can also lead to some health concerns. We've heard about shoveling and its connection to heart attacks, and of course falls due to icy conditions, but there is so much more to consider. Logan Westrope joins me now to talk about the winter weather and its effect on your health.
Yeah, that's right, Josh. There's lots of things to consider health-wise during the winter months. The cold and drop in the humidity can play a big factor on your body. I spoke with Dr. Tina George from Commonwealth Health in Avoca in regards to the common things she sees every year and how exactly the weather is to blame.
A lot of things change with the colder weather. The first and most obvious is colds and viruses. A lot of viruses are more stable in the colder weather and they stay in the air and on surfaces longer.
We have all been there before as Mother Nature ushers in the winter months with a vengeance. From the sneezing, coughing to aches and pains, Dr. George is no stranger to dealing with these complications.
But there's a range of other complaints too. Skin conditions are more common in terms of cold weather causing cracking and dryness. That can be sometimes a cause for infection in skin, so we sometimes see that as a result.
Dr. George says breathing conditions and asthma are triggered by the drop in temperatures, and the cold causes cardiovascular health issues as the blood vessels contract. But what about the weather patterns, as differences with high and low pressure systems can often put you under the weather?
Even folks who don't necessarily have sinus infections can have sinus discomfort with those changes in the weather and humidity.
And why does it seem our noses always run in the cold?
Our noses will run, and that's related to the vasoconstriction that we see with cold weather as the blood vessels constrict and some of the fluid comes out, and then we tend to have that rhinorrhea or runny nose that can happen.
And finally, as daylight fades away, so can our tempers.
The seasonal affective disorder and mood disorders, which are affected by the low sunlight, the cold weather, our inability to get outside, and especially now that we're more isolated.
And Dr. George says exercising, even in small amounts or in your home, are great ways to fight seasonal affective disorder. Exercises as simple as walking in your house or just doing workout tapes can go a long way, Josh.
And also socializing, but the 2020 way is pretty good too.
Exactly.
All right, Logan, thank you so much. Last winter was difficult for those who love to ski. When Mother Nature won't cooperate, ski resorts take snow matters into their own hands. We're making snow, or at least talking about it, when we come back.
I like the first snow, and I like snow on Christmas Eve, and then it can go away.
You're watching a special Eyewitness Weather presentation, your Winter Weather Handbook.
Some winters in Pennsylvania accumulate lots of snow, while others not so much. Sami Squires joins us to help us better understand how local ski resorts maintain their slopes with or without the help of Mother Nature. Sami?
If you're a skier or a snowboarder, you know how wonderful a fresh snowfall is. Ski resorts appreciate the help from Mother Nature, but they're ready to make a little snow on their own. We all know that water freezes at 32 degrees, but when it comes to making snow, ski resorts like Jack Frost prefer to start at 28 degrees. This helps them to produce more snow. But other factors like humidity also have an important role in snow production.
The lower the temperature and the lower the humidity, the more water you can feed to the gun. And the more water, the more snow.
With a low relative humidity, it could create a thicker snow base. And when the conditions are right, you could start up the snow guns.
There's a nozzle that feeds air and water, and then all the other nozzles are just water. But it's the air and water mixture together that nucleates the water and makes it able to freeze.
These snow guns weigh around 900 pounds and they throw snow up to 40 feet in the air before it falls and starts accumulating on the ground.
One of our fan guns it'll make an acre-foot of snow in about 12 hours.
In order to maximize snow production, you need the perfect weather conditions.
You know, sometimes we could run for hours and not put down a whole lot. But then when you get those good temperatures, you could run for a couple hours and put down a few feet.
The general manager of Jack Frost Ski Resort says that we can only ski on the first couple of inches, but they try to keep the base a little taller.
24 to 36 inches we try to keep, you know, as an average. There's some places where it's 6 feet. In the train part, it could be 15, 20 feet, depending on what snow features we build. But for the most part, 2 to 3 feet.
Through the course of the winter at Jack Frost, they pump almost 100 million gallons of water into the snow guns. But 90% of that water goes back into the creek that they pumped it from, waiting for the entire process to begin again in the next ski season. Well, that's the snow story, Josh. Ski resorts have the slopes covered, and if Mother Nature won't help out.
All right, Sami, thank you so much. And of course, we hope it's a great season for all of our skiers. The winter can bring a multitude of changes, from snowy days to icy nights and just about everything in between. Meteorologist Stefano DiPietro explains those wonders of winter.
We can see many different kinds of precipitation as a winter storm comes rumbling through our area in the winter months. But what exactly causes those different kinds of precipitation that we can actually see in the winter? Well, it all has to do with the temperature of different layers of the atmosphere. Think of the atmosphere like a cake. What we'll do is we'll split it into different layers. So here's that cloud, and we'll put some snowflakes inside the cloud. Just below that cloud, where that blue area is, temperatures are still below freezing. But then as we continue our way down, temperatures start to rise. They get above freezing. So what happens to those snowflakes? They melt, they turn into raindrops, and as long as that temperature stays above freezing, all the way down to the ground, what we'll be left with is rain. But there are many different cases, and something we see around this area a lot is freezing rain. So freezing rain, we're splitting the atmosphere up into 3 different layers. We have the layer just below the cloud, where snowflakes stay snowflakes. Then what happens is, as those snowflakes fall through this warmer pocket of air, they're going to melt and they'll turn into raindrops. But then right at the surface, temperatures drop back below freezing. Now, the raindrops don't have enough time to refreeze, but what they will do is when they come in contact with the ground, they'll freeze into a thin layer of black ice, and that's what we call freezing rain. On another end of that, we have sleet to talk about. With sleet, it's a little different than freezing rain. That area of warmth where temperatures are sitting above that freezing mark is a little bit more compact. So the snowflakes fall, they're going to melt into raindrops through that red area where temperatures are above the freezing mark. As they continue to fall, they're going to fall back into an area where temperatures are actually below freezing again. So what happens is, as those raindrops fall through that colder air, they're going to refreeze, but they'll just refreeze into these tiny pellets of ice. And that's just what we call sleet. Snow, I think, is all pretty obvious, right? So we take a snowflake from the top of the cloud, we bring it all the way down to the surface, and when it does so, it's falling through air that is below that freezing mark all the way down, so that's what gives us straight snow. Keep in mind, in our area, we can see big changes just in the different kinds of winter precipitation, just from the elevation, from the valleys to the mountains. So that is what makes winter forecasting pretty tricky in northeastern and central Pennsylvania.
All right, Stefano, thank you so much. That's pretty interesting, right? Whether it's snow, sleet, or just plain rain, remember, you can always find your forecast online at pahomepage.com or by downloading the Eyewitness Weather app. Winter weather alerts can get pushed right to your cell phone no matter where you are. When we return, how does the weather in Siberia impact a Pennsylvania winter? I'll chat with an expert to explain.
It's too cold. That's it. It's too cold. I like to be warm. I'm old. I like to be a snake on a rock. I like to be warm.
You're watching a special Eyewitness Weather presentation, your Winter Weather Handbook.
Snow in Siberia and winter in Pennsylvania don't seem to go together, but for Judah Colin, who is the director of seasonal forecasting at Atmospheric and Environmental Research, says otherwise. And that's the first thing I asked him. How did he make this connection?
Well, it's a bit of an accidental discovery. I was looking at snow-covered North America and see how that influences our weather. I just happened to change the snow cover not only in North America, but also in Eurasia to be consistent. We found when snow cover was high across the whole hemisphere, in the whole northern hemisphere, we tend to get this Greenland blocking, high pressure across Greenland and more severe winter weather. And it turned out when I looked at it, it wasn't that the North American snow cover had this strong relationship with our weather here in the East Coast, but rather it was Eurasian snow cover. So it was fall Eurasian snow cover actually, to our surprise, had the strongest relationship with our weather.
Describe the atmospheric process for me. We're talking about snow cover in Siberia, Eurasia. So what does that cause? What's that domino effect that impacts us here?
When you have the presence of snow cover, compared to the absence of snow cover, much more energy coming from the sun is reflected back out into space. When you have above normal snow cover, that reflects much more energy, sunset rays back out into space, and this tends to cool the Siberian region. So it's easier for that cold air to spread west, either into Europe or north over the North Pole and down on the east side of the Rockies, into Canada, then to the United States. But what we found with the snow cover is really, I think it's best to think of it through the stratospheric polar vortex, because it has to go through the third dimension, right? It has to go vertically as well, so it travels up, 8-10 miles above the Earth's surface. It takes time for that to happen. I could use the snow cover in October and use it to try to predict, let's say, the weather in January and February, because there's this expanse of time.
Where does this stack up with some of those more common drivers for winter weather?
I think snow cover, its impact is not as strong in the western part of North America, but its influence is stronger in the eastern part of North America. So really more of the Great Lakes into the northeast.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time tonight.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, it was a lot. Thank you very much for having me on.
And Colin does not plan to stop now. Research will continue into the polar vortex, Siberian snow cover, and its influences across parts of North America. Siberia has a record low temperature of 89.9 degrees below zero. But what about our area? What is the coldest temperature ever recorded? What are the snow records? We gave Sami Squires that assignment.
Locally speaking, the coldest we've ever gotten here is actually -21 degrees in Avoca. That was on January 21st, 1994. On the same day in Williamsport, they got to -20, so still very, very cold conditions. While the most snowfall we've seen in 24 hours was 41 inches. That is almost 3.5 feet. That was in Wayne County in 1958 in February. So lots of snowfall for a singular day, as well as cold temperatures. But if we're talking about an entire season, we see a lot of snow. In Pleasant Mount in 1967, 128.5 inches fell that year, while in East Stroudsburg in 1958, 108.6 inches fell. Wilkes-Barre and Scranton Airport in 1994, so the same year we actually received those cold temperatures, 81.5 inches is our record in Avoca. So lots of snowfall, and in terms of how much that equivalence is for feet, 128.5 inches is equivalent to 10.7 feet. Now that is taller than the average basketball hoop, and that's a whole lot of snow.
Oh, I'm sure some people would love to get 10 feet of snow, right? Forecasting snow, it's not just a matter of being below freezing. It's a matter of how much below freezing. It can make all the difference in the world. Here's Stefano to explain.
Factors going into forecasting winter weather, and one of the things we really pay close attention to as we get into predicting snowfall totals is actually something called the snow ratio. Well, what is it? The easiest way to put it is we're trying to figure out how wet is that snowfall. From time to time, you'll hear us say it's going to be a wet snowfall or it's going to be a dry snowfall, and that makes all the difference when we forecast snow totals. What we're looking at is how well is that snow actually going to pack itself together. Is it going to pack very tightly, or will it stack up on itself rather quickly? And remember, the snow can have different consistencies to it. We have that snowfall. That's great for making snowmen, great for packing snowballs together tightly. Not that great when we have to clear it, though. It's a lot heavier of a snow to do so. Then there's that fluffier snow, which we can't really build a snowman with, but it is somewhat easier to actually clear out. It's that fluffy snow that doesn't pack together very tightly that can start to stack up a lot quicker. What I want you to keep in mind, generally speaking, the colder the air we're talking about when snow falls, the higher the ratio. So let's look at two examples. And the generic snow ratio that we start with is a 10-to-1 ratio. So for every 10 inches of snow that we get, if we melted that down, we would expect 1 inch of liquid. So in this particular example, we have 1 inch of snow on the ground, we melt that down, and we get 1/10 of an inch of liquid. That's an okay snowfall. It's packing together pretty tightly, it's not stacking up all that fast, but if it's much colder and there's not as much moisture in that snowfall, the ratio can change and that snow can start to stack up a lot quicker. So in this scenario, we still have that 1/10 of an inch of liquid equivalent, but now, because that snow is a fluffier consistency, there's not as much of a wet snow coming down, it can stack up on itself faster. So now instead of seeing 1 inch of snow, now we're seeing 2 inches of snow. And if you think about it this way, that can really stack up as we see more snowfall begin to come down. So snow ratio, definitely something we'll pay close attention to as we go through the winter months. And now we know that it can change that consistency depending on the temperature.
One of the dangers of winter is black ice. And Stefano takes a closer look at what you need to know before you hit the road.
Are you a fan of winter?
No, absolutely not. I don't like driving in it. I don't like shoveling it. No.
You're watching a special Eyewitness Weather presentation, your Winter Weather Handbook.
When we venture out this winter, one of the main concerns on the road is black ice. But there's also freezing fog to consider. Here's meteorologist Stefano DiPietro to explain the difference.
Icy roadways are always a danger in the winter months, and black ice can be some of the most dangerous kind of winter weather that we can actually see. But what exactly is black ice? Well, it's a very thin layer of ice that develops over top of the pavement when the road temperature is below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. It's below that freezing mark, and it's the transparency of that ice that lets it blend in with the dark pavement or the sidewalk and can make it very difficult to see, and that's why it's one of the more dangerous kinds of winter weather. 3 different ways we can talk about getting black ice. One of the first ways is when we have snow melt during the day. Then as that temperature drops overnight, everything can refreeze, and it refreezes into that thin layer of ice. And we talk about that a lot early in the mornings after we've had a chance to cool down. We can also get black ice with light rainfall. When the road temperature, the pavement temperature is below that freezing mark and light rain begins to fall, it can turn into ice right on contact with that roadway. So that's why we really pay attention to those road conditions in the winter, because we can be seeing rain, but as it hits the ground, it turns right to ice. And there's another way we can see black ice, and that's called freezing fog. Remember, within fog, down at the ground, it's just moisture. There's tiny water drops in that cloud of fog. So once it comes into contact with a surface that's below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, it freezes into that icy layer of black ice. We call this freezing fog. It can be dangerous in and itself, just on a foggy morning. And a lot of the time in the winter, you see the signs everywhere. They will say bridge ices before roadway. But why is that the case? Why do we tend to see the bridges freeze first, then the roadways after? And this can be very dangerous in the winter months. The main reason being the roads can be fine. Once you move over that bridge, though, you hit a patch of ice, and that can cause some problems. So look at the air temperature dropping, and notice that the bridge temperature follows very closely along with that air temperature, while the road temperature is actually running much higher than that at 38 degrees Fahrenheit. It's because bridges are exposed to colder air from both above and below. So that more exposure to the colder air actually lets that temperature drop more rapidly and follows the air temperature much closer. So that's why those bridges tend to ice before the roadways. So icy roads, big story to talk about through this winter as we prepare over the next couple of months.
Thank you, Stefano. Many students wait to hear the words snow day, but with COVID-19 in the mix this year, will that mean a change of class plans? Meteorologist Logan Westrop is here. Logan, are snow days going away?
Yeah, you know, Josh, a lot of students are studying virtually due to the pandemic, and with that option available, does this mean the end of the much anticipated snow day? But that's not for me to decide. I asked school officials to weigh in.
Snow days may not be like previous years, as many public school districts are already using virtual learning to deal with the pandemic. Dr. Rivera, superintendent with Greater Nanticoke Area School District, says virtual learning will make it a little easier to continue instruction during a snow day.
Because of the pandemic and the flexibility with our instructional time, you know, if we have an outbreak or if we have to go virtual, we're going to be doing virtual days anyway. With the pandemic.
If we're full virtual, snow days will not play a role whatsoever. If we are to come back, one thing that the Department of Education has done in the last few years have put in flexible instructional days, FIDs.
FID days have to be applied through each school district throughout the Commonwealth.
It gives us 5 days, so there could be up to 5 snow days that our kids could work virtually from home and our teachers could work virtually from home.
When a school cancels class and uses an FID day, it does not require any additional makeup days from the 180 set instructional days. Brian Upplinger, superintendent of the Hazleton Area School District, says FID days would have to be announced ahead of time. He's been suggesting to students and staff that snow days aren't going to be the same this year.
I've kind of been hinting to it that, you know, there's not going to be a snow day this year. Been, you know, jokingly putting it out, you know, on my personal social media page, as it would be very easy to say, yep, today or tomorrow, you know, there's a big nor'easter coming through. Let's go online. And everybody's safe. Everyone's at home. We can shut the buildings down, keep moderate temperature in, save a little bit of money.
Prior to the pandemic, snow days typically were a day off with no instructional work. However, virtual learning would keep students and teachers working like a regular day.
Or some of the other things we've seen would close down a school district or a school building. There would definitely be implications from our recent experiences.
So moving forward, will snow days be a thing of the past?
So every student within another month are going to be equipped with a Google Chromebook. And so that there's going to be a lot of flexibility there to do those types of things in the future.
And even parents we spoke to say times are changing.
I think the kids will be virtually learning on on snow days, unfortunately, so they don't get to be little kids anymore.
I think the virtual learning is really good for snow days and stuff like that, but it's definitely not perfect.
It's good to keep the education going at home, help keep from stir craziness and all that. But yeah, especially if there is a snow day and you have the chance to catch up at home, that is always good too.
So there you go. The general consensus is snow days will not be what we were used to, Josh.
All right, Logan, thank you, but I guess we can still enjoy the snow after the virtual classes, right? When we hear snowstorm, many of us start to think about breakfast, right? We're off to the market for bread, eggs, and milk. Why do we do this? The answer is in aisle 5 when we return.
I like it better than summer because I don't like being hot and sticky, so yeah, and I don't normally have to wear a coat because I get hot flashes all the time. So it's great.
You're watching a special eyewitness weather presentation, your winter weather handbook.
Right before a storm, we always hear about people rushing to the grocery store to get the essentials, like the bread, the milk, and the eggs.
Yep.
So we sent Logan out to figure out exactly what's going on here.
Yeah.
And I hear you have an excellent story for us.
I see what you did there. Yeah, and speaking of, I actually went to Garrity's in Luzerne to ask some customers what's the deal with the big rush to get the bread, the milk, and the eggs.
They said snow! I gotta get the bread and milk!
A lot of people right before a snowstorm, they're always like, I need to get the bread, I need to get the eggs, the milk. What's the rush?
You're gonna think I'm nuts.
Well, the essentials to me would be the bread, the milk, like the eggs.
Basically the milk and the bread and the eggs.
Like bread, milk, maybe eggs.
These seem to be the go-tos right before a big winter storm as everyone hurries to the grocery store. And it's always the case every time.
I do not have to work on making sure everything's stocked up for the people when they come in here. When you have the mad rush, shelves could be jammed in 1 minute, next minute they'd be empty.
But what's the deal with these 3 main ingredients?
My 90-year-old mother, she hasn't been out in any of this since COVID. First thing she says, I need milk, I need eggs, I need bread. For what, Mom?
What do they make? French toast? That's all I can think of. You can just fry eggs, you could do anything, you know, French toast, anything. So they're staples. You can always do something with that.
For some shoppers we talk to, they really just don't understand what's the panic to make French toast.
I don't know. I always have bread and eggs and milk, so I don't know.
I don't understand that. I think it's funny.
I'm like the squirrels in my backyard.
That's how it is here. It's just the embedded thing, you know.
And what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it?
Make French toast?
That's about it.
Well, there you have it. The answer, everyone is making French toast.
All right, some of the shoppers I spoke to say they just go in the snow and it doesn't matter whether, it's 2 inches, 5 inches of snow. That's probably because they have 4-wheel drive.
And you know what? If you're like me, you like to drive in the snow and it's fun, but I guess you'll be making us breakfast or maybe our dinner is French toast this evening.
What's your go-to essentials when you go to the store?
You know what? I like pizza and cake.
And cake?
Okay, I love a good dessert anytime. Right? Who's with me on that one? All right. So up next, what are the chances of a white Christmas? We'll have that answer next, and we found someone that actually likes winter.
Just like the snow a lot, cold. I don't mind the cold. A lot of people do, not me. That's about it for that.
You're watching a special eyewitness weather presentation, your winter weather handbook.
It's not the cold, it's the wind, right? Or something like that. As we go through the next couple of months, we're going to be talking a lot about wind chills. What goes into it? How does it affect us? Stefano DiPietro explains.
We get closer to the winter months and colder air starts to take over, wind chill will start to become more of a factor. But what exactly is the wind chill and what makes it feel so much colder when we factor in the wind? Well, let's take a normal day in the winter. Might be cold outside, but the wind is not blowing. The wind is nice and calm, as a matter of fact. Our bodies generate a layer of heat that surrounds us, and that's what actually helps to keep us warm. It keeps us at that comfortable 98.6 degrees. However, once we factor in the wind, that layer of heat that surrounds our body gets pushed away from us. So what that happens as the wind picks up, as that layer of heat pushes away, that drops our body temperature. That's what makes it feel so much colder when the wind is so much more of a factor in the winter. So this is definitely something we'll be talking about over the next couple of months, and one of the things we really take into account with those cold safety tips.
All right, so layers, and probably another layer on top.
Listen, it's always easier to just go out in too many layers, and then if you want to, take some off as you go throughout the day, then have to leave in the morning and halfway through the day say, oh, well, I screwed up, right? I don't have enough layers on, and then you're just freezing the rest of the day.
I know, you always seem to get caught off guard by it, too. So as we begin to wrap up your winter weather handbook, Sammy has a final question for us.
Okay, are you dreaming of a white Christmas? What are the chances of getting snow on Christmas?
First off, always. I'm always dreaming of a white Christmas.
Okay. Yes.
Every night?
30s, 37?
38.
38, okay.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to go with about a 25 to a 30%, somewhere in that range.
Well, you guys are all on the right track. It's actually 41% chance of seeing an inch or more on the ground. So enough to cover the grass, That's every 2 out of 5 years.
And that's just having it on the ground Christmas Day, right?
Right.
That's on Christmas Day.
Okay.
So, but actually seeing snow fall on Christmas is even more unlikely. We're talking about every 2 out of 7 years, 28% chance of seeing a trace or more. So just a little bit of snow falling on Christmas, while seeing an inch fall on Christmas is at 11%, so much less likely.
Very interesting. Okay.
All right, so there is technically a difference here. You have a white Christmas snow on the ground. It doesn't actually need to fall on Christmas Day. I'm all for it, and I think I would go with as long as it doesn't have a big impact on travel plans.
Yeah.
Then
I think so.
I'm all about
it.
Right?
Because we've had snows that are, 12, 15 inches. I think those are the records, if I'm not wrong. And then winters that have been 60 degrees on Christmas Day.
All right. We'll see what happens this year. Speaking of, and what will this winter bring? We are working on our winter forecast and plan to have it ready the week of Thanksgiving.
And we hope that we have helped you understand how we forecast and interpret winter information.
Our forecasts are always available on air and online at pahomepage.com.
And no matter what the weather, we are here to help you get informed about what to expect as you travel across northeastern and central Pennsylvania.
We hope we gave you at least a little insight into winter forecasting and its challenges. We also hope you had a little fun with us tonight, too. Remember to download the Eyewitness Weather app and stay on top of our ever-changing weather. And for the entire Eyewitness Weather team, I'm Josh Hodell. Thank you for watching.